Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and today we're going to be talking about the Blood Angels versus the Orks. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We post Warhammer 40K lore videos every single day. If you have any suggestions for topics, let me know what they are in the comment section below. And if you guys enjoy our content, consider supporting us on Patreon, link down in the description below. If you can't, we understand simply by watching, listening to the lore, and hitting the thumbs up. If your faction wins, spoiler alert, it's always going to be the Space Marines. Hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. But with all of that said, let's get into 40 facts on Blood Angels versus the Orks. The Blood Angel Space Marine chapter is one of the most rigorously trained and disciplined chapters of all the Loyalist Adeptus Astartes warriors. Their doctrines are permeated with a sense of returning to the greatness of humanity's past. They seek to better themselves with every single one of their endeavors. They see the beauty and symmetry both on and off the battlefield. To these warriors, a well-disciplined strike is more important than the victory that comes after. In contrast to this are the masses of greenskin warriors known as the Orks, which care little about martial discipline and only seek to prove their might against all of their enemies. This clash of combat doctrines has replayed over and over again since the Legion first encountered the Ork race. Funny enough, the Orks have grown to appreciate the tough fight that the Sons of Sanguinius provide. In their minds, there is nothing more glorious than watching a well-trained warrior die underneath the screaming hordes of savage greenskins who care little about precision and timing. To the Blood Angels, the Orks are the pinnacle of wasted potential. They understand that the very same savagery that allows them to thrive in the galaxy is what holds them back. The Ork race is merely a sharpening stone for which the Blood Angels will sharpen their blades. When these two warrior factions meet, the outcome is always the same. The Ork success from their chaotic assaults are merely temporary, as the almost mythical streams of the Blood Angels' doctrines overcome the greenskin menace. The following are but only a few of the notable encounters between the Blood Angels chapter and the Orks. Sometime in the 35th millennium, tectonic upheavals wrecked the backwatered world of Iron Cell 5, which was populated by countless Orks. Seeing this as a sign from their gods, Kork and Morg, the natural catastrophe triggered a massive Ork walk. Forced out of their homes, the greenskins flooded into space in the billions. Through the chaos, a bellowing beast known as Warboss Star Smasher wrangled control of the refugee greenskins and led them to war. The Wog devastated every single major faction in the subsector. It overran the Eldar Maiden world of Ledrith, smashed aside the renegade warfleets of Lord Bolshevik, and finally descended upon the Red Haven system. Here is where it was stopped, by a combined force of the Blood Angels, the Imperial Guard, and the Imperial Knights of House Griffith. The defense was coordinated by the Blood Angels chapter master, Leondin Kensteveris, and was masterful in its conception and execution. The war raged for solar months, and several Imperial worlds were overrun. Yet finally, the Wog spent its fury against the so-called Shield of Sanguinius and was utterly destroyed. To this day, the chapter's execution of such a large Ork Wog is studied not only by Imperial commanders, but even Eldar warriors. The Blood Angels wouldn't see another massive Ork offensive to this magnitude of Wog Star Smasher until the 41st millennium, when 3 monstrous Space Hulks emerged from the warp into the Baal system, bringing with them the massive Ork Wog of Big Scorcha. Lord Commander Dante ordered the deployment of 2 companies of the Blood Angels to defend each of Baal's moons. The remaining companies of the chapter were assigned to serve as a strike force in order to board and destroy the Greenskin Space Hulks. The Blood Angels proved successful, and 2 of the Space Hulks were destroyed, with much of the Wog's Orks still aboard them. Before it could be destroyed, the final Space Hulk disgorged thousands of Orks, commanded by the warlord, Big Scorcha. It was the first time in a very long time since any enemy leader the size and strength of this Ork made planetfall on the Blood Angels' homeworld. The cunning Ork warboss understood that the bulk of the Blood Angels' forces were still in orbit, destroying the Space Hulk, or in one of the 2 moons of the world. Big Scorcha aimed to lay siege and then ransack the chapter's fortress monastery. However, the Blood Angels proved not so easily outmaneuvered. The chapter's dreadnoughts, who were deemed unsuitable to use in the cramped confines of the Space Hulk, had remained behind on Baal. With Wog Big Scorcha charging towards the sacred home of the Sons of Sanguinius, the venerable Furioso dreadnought, Astromale, assembled all 41 of the Blood Angels' dreadnoughts and coordinated the defense of the fortress monastery in what was later known as the Battle of Iron. Although Astromale and his dreadnoughts needed only to defend the fortress monastery long enough for the Astarte reinforcements to arrive from orbit, they fought with such savagery that there was precious few orcs remaining when the first Storm Raven finally landed. No orc assault of this magnitude would come near the Blood Angels' home ever again, and the chapter would form a special hatred for the Greenskin after this assault. Periodic purges of their sector forced all Greenskins in the area to cower at the sight of the Blood Angels, that is until the assault of the battle barge, Bloodcaller. A defiant orc freebooter captain managed to damage the Blood Angels' vessel while it was patrolling the Treskian system. The Bloodcaller seemed to be finished, as its main drive had been silenced and boarding cruisers had deployed hordes of Greenskins within it. Nonetheless, maneuvering by the fleet captain Bellerophon managed to bring the great vessel's main batteries to bear on the Orc fleet, destroying the Greenskins' flagship and half a dozen support vessels in a single salvo. Meanwhile, the furious counter-assault of the Bloodcaller's crew and the Astartes swept the Orcs who had boarded the battle barge from its lower decks and then carried the fight to the cruisers. Though it would take nearly a full standard year for the Bloodcaller to make its way back to sublight speed to the nearest Imperial orbital repair dock, the Great Void ship did so proudly, bearing its scars as a tall-tale sign of the great victory it and its crew had won against the Greenskins. This history of the Blood Angels' destruction of Orcs goes back to the Great Crusade, when the chapter's Primarch still walked amongst his sons. Aside from the combined campaign known as the Olenor Crusade, the Blood Angels expertly butchered their way through Greenskins. Early in the 31st millennium, many tribes of Orcs, scattered and leaderless after the hammer blow they had suffered at Olenor during the infamous Olenor Crusade, had fled, and many had come to rest in the Kaivas belt, where they carved out new outposts out of the drifting mineral-rich rocks, licking their wounds while they rearmed. The greenskin Xenos soon began to strike out at nearby Imperial star systems and newly compliant outer colonies. It was the duty of the Space Marine Legions to reinforce the lesson of Olenor again. The Alpha Legion had tracked them to their lair and petitioned the War Master for reinforcements required to prosecute their plan of annihilation. But after the war at the world called Murder and the disastrous engagement with the civilization known as the Interrex, the Luna Wolves had been reluctant to commit ships to Alpharius' new campaign. In the end, it was the Blood Angels who agreed to assist their cousins in the 20th Legion, with Sanguinius himself marshalling a sizable intervention to support the efforts of the 88th Expeditionary Fleet. Alpharius believed that the mission would take up to 5 standard years in execution. The Angel rejected the premise and promised it would be over in 1. He committed vessels from every active Blood Angels Expeditionary Fleet to the cause. Sanguinius was proven right. Just over 13 months after the commencement of the Kaivas initiative, the Orcs were almost totally annihilated, but like animals backed into a corner, they fought harder than ever before. The 88th Expeditionary Fleet took their warships into the Kaivas belt, and then they vanished from all sensors, leaving the Blood Angels flotilla at the edge of the system to wait. Soon it became clear that the mission Alpharius had been so eager to secure support for was little more than a picket duty. First one at a time, then in squadrons, and finally in fleets, the Orcs began to flee from the Kaivas system. Each time they bolted for open space beyond the mass shadow of the supergiant sun and its asteroid belt. The Blood Angels were waiting for them. Imperial starships and Orc cruisers engaged in deadly games of cat and mouse that lasted for weeks on end, threading in and out of dense dust clouds at the peripheral of the star system, mercilessly hunting each other. Mighty vessels clashed again and again, but months of protracted ship-to-ship engagements and naval warfare made the sons of Baal restless. They had been bred for a battle where they could face their foes, not ranged conflicts conducted over huge spans of empty vacuum. However, the chance to fight blade to blade did come. The behavior patterns of the Orc crew began to change. They eschewed what little animal cunning they had and made mistakes. Instead of showing the brutish slyness they were known for, the Xenos exhibited conduct that were more closely resembling panic. They would take chances, running the gauntlet of the Blood Angels' blockade when the odds were stacked against them. It was almost as if there was something on their backs that they feared more than the guns of Sanguinius' Legion. No one within the 9th Legion knew what the Alpha Legion had done to make the Orcs run. All that was certain was that the Alpha Legion had gone dark, only rising to send regular communication out to the Blood Angels' blockade fleet that contained little more than the message to maintain the line. Finally, Sanguinius, tired of Alfarius' evasive manner, sent a frigate past the outer market in defiance of the rules of engagement the two legions had agreed upon. When the frigate returned weeks later, the crew reported that they had come across no signs of their allies, only the wrecks of Ork vessels and the bodies of dead aliens. The Alpha Legion's 88th Expeditionary Fleet comprised of hundreds of warships, and yet no trace of them was sighted. The tempo of the Kaivas campaign had finally reached a terminal pitch. The final remnants of the Ork forces took flight from the belt in a disordered exodus, and perished in the flashes of lance cannons, torpedo barrages, as they crossed the sentry line. At last, the Alpha Legion starships appeared at the very edge of the scanning range, apparently moving in a wall, herding the enemy toward the fringe of the system. The Alpha Legion stated that they had fully exterminated the alien infestation in the Kaivas belt, and were grateful to the Blood Angels for their cooperation. The blockade was finally over, and with the death of the final monolithic Ork wrecks at the hands of the Blood Angels fleet, the campaign came to a successful conclusion, though relations between the 9th and the 20th Legion remained somewhat strained. And those were 40 facts on the Blood Angels versus the Orks. What's interesting about these short little synopsis battles is that it really drives me to want to play the tabletop, and I think the reason for that is that it sparks my imagination, and it makes me want to create a short little narrative right before a battle, because I've noticed that whenever we play a straight up battle in 40k, if I have a purpose for my army to defeat my opponent, other than just like defeating them because that's the game, it just brings so much enjoyment to the actual tabletop game. And that's something that I hope you guys take away from this, is like create a quick like 5-sentence story of why the two factions are battling it out. It doesn't have to be that elaborate, just like these short little battles show you. Like the story of Wog Big Scorcha is probably just like a couple of sentences. If you do that for your own battles, it just brings so much enjoyment, and I hope that you guys try that in your own personal tabletop games. That's something that me and the Sound Alchemist and the other friends that we play with, I feel like are missing, and that's something that we always talk about doing, but we never do. But if you actually do take the time to just sit and read your codex, get these short little stories that have more to it, but they're just giving you a quick synopsis, it just makes the game way more enjoyable. So I really hope that this helps you enjoy the game. And if you don't play the tabletop, jump on some type of forum or even post on Facebook or Instagram and create your own little narratives, especially if you're into the lore and you know what the factions are all about and stuff like that. You would be helping people that follow you. So I recommend that you do that and just help the community out that way. And eventually pick up a collection and play the game, because it's a lot of fun. But yeah, thanks so much for listening, guys. I will talk to you tomorrow. This was Gershwin with One Mind Syndicate signing out.
Oh, I used to put my